Last week, we built the world. We met Gianni Versace, a man who turned beauty into an empire and chose a cursed Greek goddess as his symbol. We met 1990s America, a culture that was drunk on image, celebrity, consumption, and Zima. We met a brilliant, charming, deeply broken young man whose entire identity was a beautiful lie that was falling apart. And we're not talking about Will Hunting. We're talking about Andrew Cunanan.
And today, that lie kills. Or, I mean, years ago it did. But, you get the point.
We get the point. But the point is, 5 people will die. A fashion icon will be gunned down on his own doorstep. The FBI will fail on a historic scale. And at the end, the only person who might have explained why all of this happened will take that answer to the grave.
This is The Price of Beauty, Part 2, The Killing of a Dream. And this is going to be like wicked good. I'm sorry, Boston. That was bad.
Sneaky footsteps in the night, clues that vanish out of sight. Grab your hat and magnifying glass. We'll talk this case and have a blast. Mugshot mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know.
In late April 1997, Andrew Cunanan calls his credit card company and begs them to extend his limit just one more time because he really needs a one-way ticket to Minneapolis. Now, before he goes, there's a going-away dinner at a restaurant called California Cuisine in Hillcrest. And at that dinner, for the first time anyone can remember, Andrew doesn't pick up the tab. He can't. He's literally hit his limit on everything.
Now, expecting to pick up the tab every time would probably push me just a step closer to murder, is just all I'm saying. But this man built his entire existence on giving people stuff and all the wealth that entails. He couldn't buy dinner. Think about what that means for someone whose identity is entirely being the most impressive person in the room. Now, it's really easy for me to fathom, but it was hard for Cunanan. That dinner wasn't just embarrassing. It was an existential crisis sitting across from a Crystal Pepsi. Now, at my age, I know about motherfucking existential crises. They suck.
That they do. And in Minneapolis, his target is Jeffrey Trail, 28 years old, former naval officer, which is significant because the Navy was the institution Andrew's father served in, the institution that gave his family whatever credibility that they had. Trail had left the Navy and was working as a district manager for a propane delivery company. He was building a real, honest life, and he wanted nothing to do with Andrew Cunanan anymore. The crazy was intriguing at first, for sure, but the term X was now in play.
So you know what they say about dating crazy people, right? Okay, let me tell you. It's like a tricycle. It's all fun and games until your friends know you're riding one. Or, when you fall off one and this tricycle murders you like it's Christine.
What?
Christine, Stephen King.
Stephen King.
Murderous red vehicle.
Listen, so many of our listeners will get that. I'm sorry, I'm a Stephen King loser.
Yeah. He's pretty popular.
Yeah.
So Trail had told people, I've had a huge falling out with Andrew. I don't want him to come. He told his former roommate, Michael Williams, something even scarier. I made a lot of enemies this weekend. I've got to get out of here. They're gonna kill me. Which I would probably have some follow-up questions for you. Many.
I mean, yeah, I would too. So he predicted this trouble, and guess what? Nobody intervened.
Okay, so let's talk about the evening. On April 27th, Cunanan is in David Madsen's loft apartment. Now, to go over this, Madsen is his ex-boyfriend who also lived in Minneapolis. It's truly a spiderweb of relationships Andrew had. So Cunanan calls Trail and tells him to come pick up a gun that Trail had previously left there. Trail comes over, and Andrew Cunanan beats Jeffrey Trail to death with a claw hammer.
Not a gun, a hammer, right in front of David Madsen. Trail's watch stopped at 9:55 p.m. Investigators believe that was the moment of death. His body was rolled into a rug and placed behind a sofa.
Linda Elwell says they hear Madsen's dog and some whispers inside. They leave without opening the door, but there's a feeling something's not right. They asked the manager to check a few hours later.
I cracked the door and opened it, looked to my left, and saw this thing wrapped in a rug that would appear to be a body.
Jennifer Weiberg then and now.
There was blood all over. I remember seeing dark hair sticking out of the top of the carpet, later mentioning that it didn't look like David's hair.
After some confusion about who in fact has been brutally beaten to death with a hammer, police identify the victim as Jeffrey Trail.
So let's talk a little bit about the psychology behind this. The weapon of choice matters if we are doing that psych profile, and you know we are.
Love it.
A gun creates distance. Obviously, a hammer requires a little bit more intimacy. You have to be close. You have to really sustain an effort. This isn't detached. This is literally rage manifested into murder. Something happened between these men in that apartment. Words we'll never know, because as you can see, there was only one witness that we will soon talk about.
And let's look at the psychology of who Trail was to Cunanan. Trail represented everything Andrew wanted to be. He was actually accomplished, a real military hero, genuinely liked by people who knew the real him and not the pineapple plantation owner. Trail had legitimate accomplishments, legitimate friends, a legitimate identity, and he had rejected Andrew. In the narcissistic framework, rejection by someone you both admire and envy is the most dangerous trigger there is. It's not just, you don't want me, it's, you're proof that I'm not what I claim to be, and you also have what I want.
So, Trail was the mirror, and Cunanan smashed the hell out of it.
Now, what happens next is one of the most disturbing sequences in this entire case. After murdering Trail, Andrew Cunanan stays in David Madsen's apartment with the body behind the couch for 2 days.
It's dark. To corroborate this, neighbors actually saw them together. They saw them walking Madsen's dog, using the elevator, appearing normal, very domesticated, as if a man wasn't decomposing 10 feet away.
Madsen's family has always maintained that he was a hostage, that he walked in on Trail's murder, that Cunanan had the gun, and that Madsen was too terrified to run. Initially, investigators treated Madsen as a possible accomplice, a suspect in Trail's murder, which his family fought against for years. The evidence strongly supports the hostage theory, though, but perhaps there is a middle ground here as well.
So let me interject and say, things are about to get dark, and they will keep getting darker from here. It's a dark hallway that just kind of ends that way. Andrew has hit a turning point, and now the collateral damage is just strewn across the field like a traffic accident. Madsen was 33 years old. He was an architect, a dog owner, a man who had built things for a living. And Maureen Orth, who wrote the definitive book on this case, which was called Vulgar Favors, called him the great unrequited love of Cunanan's life. After they broke up, Andrew literally kept the photo of Madsen on his fridge.
On May 2nd, the two were spotted north of Minneapolis driving Madsen's Jeep and eating lunch together at a bar. The next morning, Madsen's body was found on the shore of Rush Lake, shot in the head and the back with a .40 caliber Taurus pistol that Cunanan had taken from Trail's belongings. His body showed no signs of restraints. The only defensive wounds were on his fingers, like he had raised his hands to deflect the shot.
Which means this wasn't a man who was fighting at all. That was a man who was most likely begging.
Right. He killed the man whose photo he kept on his fridge. He killed the love of his life. If that single detail doesn't tell you everything about the war between love and destruction inside of Andrew Cunanan, then nothing really will. Cunanan took Madsen's red Jeep Cherokee and headed south.
We're going to talk about our next victim. The very next day, Cunanan drives to Chicago and commits the most disturbing murder of the entire spree, which is saying something.
Lee Miglin was a 72-year-old self-made real estate tycoon. He'd built a significant development empire in Chicago. He was married, a father, respected in his community. His family has always insisted the murder was random and that Cunanan targeted Miglin for his car and nothing else.
But former FBI agents, including Greg McCreary, have argued it's probably extremely unlikely that what Cunanan did to Miglin was random.
Well, what we know for certain is what was done. And content warning here because this is graphic.
And you get to explain it.
Thanks. So Cunanan bound Miglin's hands and feet with duct tape. He wrapped his head in tape so that he couldn't see or scream, And then he stabbed him more than 20 times. And then he slit his throat with a hacksaw. He stole Miglin's 1994 green Lexus and drove away. He also apparently spent the night in Miglin's home, slept in his bed, and ate food from his kitchen. Murderers like to play these Goldilocks games.
Because we've seen it before.
We have.
He killed a man, and then he made a sandwich. And then he went to sleep upstairs. And Kathryn, just goes to show, seems like a man is always ready to eat a sandwich.
I have so much judgment in that. How? How do you just do that and then eat?
I mean, it would have been better if somebody else made the sandwich for him because they are always better. It's not you making them.
Anyway.
So this is pure escalation. With each killing, this internal threshold just lowers and the levee breaks and the floodgates are open, and the first murder broke that barrier. But after that, each subsequent act of violence just becomes easier for him. And the killer often needs more intensity to achieve the same psychological release. We went from a hammer to a gunshot to freaking torture. And again, like Trail, there's also that Miglin was everything Cunanan had pretended to be. He was genuinely wealthy. He was genuinely successful. He was genuinely self-made. If jealousy and rage drove the murders of Trail and Madsen, what would you say drove this one? Was it rage at the real version of what he could only simulate? You remember Simulacra, right?
Sure do.
Was he trying to consume Miglin's identity the way he had consumed the identities of all those sugar daddies? Again, there's many who believe there was a former connection, and this may have been via gay escort services. It seems Andrew had a precious relationship of some sort and envy and anger that never seemed to have relented. Something seems to have happened between the two. Between him having to drive all the way to Chicago to make the stop, it's at least what we think. As an aside, Miglin's wife was really wealthy and powerful, and she wanted to do anything she could to squash these rumors. She did.
There's a concept in psychology called narcissistic envy, and that's the idea that a narcissist doesn't just want what someone else has. They want to destroy what someone else has, because that person's authentic success is a reminder of the narcissist's fraud. Miglin's success was the mirror Andrew couldn't break with charm, so he broke him instead.
Let's talk about our fourth victim. 5 days later, Cunanan's in Pennsville Township, New Jersey at Finns Point National Cemetery. William Reese, 45 years old, he's a cemetery caretaker. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a man who tended these graves for a living. He's also a man that has really bad luck.
Yeah, because Cunanan shot him in the head in the cemetery basement and stole his red Chevrolet pickup truck. Now, you see, the Lexus had a car phone that was being tracked, and Cunanan now needed a new vehicle. So William Reese was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Gosh, don't you just love that term, man? Wrong place, wrong time. I 100% want to stay out of the news in one of these wrong place, wrong time stories.
For sure.
That's all I'm saying. They're never good ones. Although I did do a wrong place, wrong time in most of my college classes.
Oh, hey, babe.
No. But what makes this murder the most terrifying of all, probably, is the first 3 killings were very personal. We believe. They're driven by rage and jealousy and envy and desire, all that normal murder playbook. This one was just out of utility. Cunanan needed a truck. This man had a truck, so he killed the man. This is like sociopathic, psychopathic behavior.
But by this point, Cunanan had crossed the line that's kind of hard to come back from. He had moved past emotion, past personal motive, into a place where other human beings were simply roadblocks. William Reese didn't represent anything to Andrew Cunanan. He wasn't a mirror, a rival, or a lost love. He was just in the way. And that's the most dangerous killer there is.
After this murder, Cunanan is finally placed on FBI's 10 most wanted list. He's actually on America's Most Wanted, and he's profiled multiple times. There is nearly 1,000 federal agents that are assigned to this case. So, the arrest is impending, right? It has to happen soon. Surely this one is in the bag. Remember, it's the 90s and law enforcement still doesn't like to talk to each other so much. Also, have you seen what a cell phone looked like back in the day? But let's just say, it wasn't quick enough to save a life.
All right, this is the part of the story that I find frustrating. So I need everyone to lean in.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked, all things considered.
Are you leaning in?
I'm always leaning in.
All right, here we go. Andrew Cunanan drove William Reese's stolen red pickup truck all the way to Miami Beach. He checked into the Normandy Plaza Hotel on May 12th. He paid $29 a night in cash using his real name.
$29 is third world country cheap. That's less than like Chipotle for two people. And by the way, let's not get this twisted. This is a man who's using his real name and he's on FBI's 10 most wanted list.
And he lived there for 2 months. 2 months. He was seen at local gay clubs, bars, and restaurants. He reportedly spent time on South Beach, which is one of the most photographed, most visible strips of real estate in America. He wasn't hiding in a bunker. He was hiding at the beach.
The chameleon quality we talked about in part 1. This is where it becomes very important. Investigators said Cunanan had a chameleon-like ability to look different in every picture taken of him. Every photo does show a slightly different guy if you look at them. Different hair, different weight, there's different vibes to him. It did make identification a little bit difficult, so they say. It also seems like they may have had a hard time pegging Clark Kent as anything more than a hardworking investigative news reporter.
Those damn glasses.
I can't recognize the guy. He has glasses on.
Well, on July 7th, 8 days before the Versace murder, he pawned a stolen gold coin at a local pawn shop called Cash on the Beach. He filled out the paperwork using his real name. Now, police routinely review pawn shop records, but nobody caught it in time.
Then, on July 11th, and this is just 4 days before the murder, there's an employee of disappointingly, it's not McDonald's, but it is a Subway in Miami Beach, and they recognize Cunanan from America's Most Wanted, which is the goal of the show. And the goal of the show is she calls the police. But by the time they arrived,
gone. He had already left. The FBI had nearly 1,000 agents on this case. His face was on national television, and he was almost caught by a sandwich artist who they didn't get there fast enough to catch.
Yep, and the FBI couldn't finish the job.
Wow.
I'll refrain from making a joke.
You already did. Maureen Orth titled her book Vulgar Favors, Andrew Cunanan, Gianni Versace, and the Largest Failed Manhunt in U.S. History. That subtitle is doing heavy lifting, and it's still an understatement.
Andrew Cunanan's superpower seemed to be that his entire life, he could become whomever people expected him to be. That chameleon quality. He could code switch between social classes, between identities, between faces. I mean, you remember how he was raised. And in the end, that same ability let him walk, I guess, around 1,000 cops undetected. The thing that makes him a great con artist also makes him a ghost, which also is maybe giving him too much credit. I would probably say it takes quite a bit of dark luck to just slip by for that long.
Now, on July 14th, the day before the murder, Cunanan checked out of the Normandy Plaza without paying for his last night. He was seemingly out of money, out of options, and out of time.
And now we get to the murder of Gianni Versace. On July 15th, 1997, it's a clear, bright Tuesday morning in Miami Beach.
Gianni Versace had been at his mansion, Casa Casarena, for the past few days. He was 50 years old, and he had recently been diagnosed with a rare ear cancer called pleomorphic carcinoma, but had undergone treatment and was recovering well. He had just been on the cover of Vanity Fair's July issue where he talked about Princess Diana. He said, "I had a fitting with her last week for new suits and clothing for spring. She's so serene. I think she's found herself, the way she wants to live."
That quote hits like a shot of Rumpelmans because neither of them would live to see spring of 1998.
Now, sometime around 8:30 a.m., Versace does something unusual. He goes out himself to get his morning paper and coffee at the News Cafe, which is about 15 blocks from his mansion. Normally, he sends his assistant. Nobody has ever been able to explain why he went himself that day.
The hostess there noticed he seemed off. He walked past the entrance once, he circled back, then he came in. He got his paper quickly and he just left. Something seemed to have been making him very uneasy.
As he returned to Casa Casarena and reached the ornate iron gate, as he was putting the key in the lock, Andrew Cunanan stepped up behind him and fired 2 shots from the .40 caliber Taurus pistol in the back of Versace's head, the same weapon that had killed Madsen, Reese, and now its final victim.
Versace collapsed on the steps of his own home. These are the steps that led to a door, that led to a hallway, that led to a swimming pool with a Medusa mosaic at the bottom. Cunanan turned and ran. A witness in a nearby parking garage saw a man fleeing. Inside that garage, police found William Reese's red pickup truck. The murdered dude. He still had his freaking car. Like, this was Mad Max, and if you just killed a dude, you could just take his ride, because how did they not find this car?
That bamboozles me. I can't even get into that. But what I can say is Gianni Versace was pronounced dead.
It's a really big loss to South Beach. I for one, I passed by right before I came from work, and I felt great sorrow. You know, you see him, I see him sometimes at the video store running a video. It's a big loss. The whole community really feels it. It's a very big loss.
People here tell me that South Beach is the kind of a place where internationally known celebrities, people such as Versace, Sylvester Stallone, even Madonna, can walk here on the sidewalk along Ocean Drive and not be bothered, as they might be in other communities. But maybe that feeling of casual celebrity is a thing of the past. Maybe people will always remember Versace.
He was 50 years old. The man whose logo was Medusa, whose beauty froze people in place, was killed on his own doorstep by a man who had spent his entire life trying to become everything Versace actually was.
And we want to go back to our first episode and connect this to the mythology of part 1. And Versace's Medusa logo wasn't just his marketing. It turned out to be a prophecy. Medusa's story is about what happens when beauty attracts the wrong gaze, when visibility becomes fatal. Versace was arguably the most visibly, openly gay man on the planet. His beauty, his power, his unapologetic self-expression. In 1997 America, that was still radical. And that visibility is what drew Cunanan to him.
The question that has haunted investigators for nearly 30 years is this: why Versace? Did they even know each other?
Allegedly, Cunanan told people they had met at a San Francisco opera in 1990. This was a production of Richard Strauss's opera that Versace had designed costumes for. The Versace family has always denied they ever met. And Cunanan told stories about a lot of things that weren't true.
But honestly, whether they met or not is almost beside the point. What matters is what Versace represented in Andrew's collapsing psyche. Versace was the ultimate object of desire. Rich, famous, beautiful, openly gay, beloved, authentically accomplished, and real. Everything Andrew performed, Versace actually was. Versace was the original. Andrew was the copy. And in Baudrillard's framework, when the copy meets the original, one of them has to be destroyed.
Also in the movie Highlander. So, some investigators believe Cunanan killed Versace specifically to achieve that fame he could never earn on his own. That's the twisted logic here. If I can't be Versace, I'll be the man who killed Versace.
There were early signs that indicated the male prostitute didn't intend to pay the consequences, as he gathered with friends just days before the first murder.
To me, it seems like this was a type of goodbye party or farewell party. And by giving away clothes, this is pretty classy behavior for someone who is planning suicide.
And experts say those who commit suicide are in pain and believe life is no longer worth living. So did Cunanan feel victimized by those around him or abandoned when his relationship ended to a wealthy gay man?
In a spree killer, it starts with an incident later in life. And that incident is what leads to that type of reckless and power-hungry or destructive behavior.
And for a young man who loved to be the center of attention, one may now understand why Cunanan is suspected of killing world fashion designer Gianni Versace before taking his own life.
And was choosing victims as an expression of an enormous amount of anger. And one of the old sayings is that suicide is really a form of anger turned inwards.
Andrew Cunanan was only 27 years old.
That is my immortality. I'll be remembered forever. Remember the yearbook? I'll show you down.
Wow. And in a sick, profoundly disturbing way, he was right. We're talking about him right now, 28 years later. Quote, most likely to be remembered. Mission accomplished.
So, where does this leave Cunanan? After the murder, there's a massive manhunt and it descends on Miami Beach. This time, the whole world is watching. I was watching. Andrew Cunanan's face was on every television, every newspaper, every single newsstand in America. The Miami police were probably patting themselves on the back. We're finally closing in on him.
Yeah, but for 8 days, nothing. Absolute silence. 1,000 agents, roadblocks, tips pouring in from every state, and nobody could find him, even though he never left the neighborhood. That was the play. Stay put.
Then, finally, on July 23rd, Fernando Carrera, the caretaker of a luxury houseboat just 2 miles north of Versace's mansion, notices signs of a break-in, and he hears a gunshot inside. He calls the police.
A SWAT team surrounded the houseboat. They attempted to make contact, but they got nothing. A 5-hour standoff followed. 5 hours of negotiations, bullhorns, and tension before they finally entered. They found Andrew Cunanan dead.
At 6:30 a.m. this morning, the body of Andrew Cunanan was removed from the scene and delivered to the office of the Dade County Medical Examiner. Miami Beach detectives remain on the scene, continue to process that site for additional evidence. The body of Mr. Cunanan was located on the second floor of the houseboat that is in question. The medical examiner has confirmed that he has died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. A weapon has been seized. The weapon is a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun.
Self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Same Taurus pistol. The last bullet from a gun that had already taken 3 lives.
So they had been talking to a dead man.
Basically.
And
for 5 hours.
Yeah, for 5 hours. He left no note. He has no confession. He, surprisingly, has no manifesto.
Very surprisingly.
There's no explanation. The motive, if there is even a single coherent motive, died with him on that houseboat.
And one final devastating detail. His autopsy confirmed he was HIV negative. The fear that may have triggered his spiral, the belief that he was dying, that the world had taken everything and was now taking his body, was based on something that simply wasn't true. Andrew Cunanan built his life on lies. And in the end, a lie about himself may have been the thing that destroyed everything.
Cunanan was 27 years old. He was cremated and interned at the Holy Cross Cemetery in San Diego. His parents, not surprisingly, fought over where to bury him. His father, who was still in the Philippines, wanted him buried there. Modesto the cowboy released a statement saying, "My son was an altar boy. He's not a serial killer or a homosexual."
Wow.
Seems like he was saving face.
Mm-hmm.
Even in death, the lies of that family continue.
Which is so sad. Now, the summer of 1997 wasn't done because 6 weeks after Gianni Versace's murder, on August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris.
The same Princess Diana who had attended Versace's funeral in Milan on July 22nd. The same Princess Diana who, upon hearing of Versace's murder, reportedly asked her bodyguard, "Do you think they'll do that to me?"
Elton John, who was close friends with both Versace and Diana, was at both funerals. He later said, "Gianni Versace was murdered, and then Diana rang me up and we reconciled. And 6 weeks later, I'm in the same house and she's dead. It was an extraordinary and mesmerizing summer, and I just couldn't believe what was going on."
The 90s, as you can see, literally consumed its icons. In one summer, the fashion world and the royal world and the world itself lost 2 of their most visible, most beloved, most unapologetically public figures. Both were killed in very different ways, but by the weight of being seen. Do we go conspiracy theory here?
I mean, we can save that for another time when we do my Magnus Opus pod on Princess Diana, and it will be approximately 17 parts, like
at least.
Minimum, bare minimum. Now, if as for the Versace empire, Donatella Versace, Gianni's sister, stepped in as creative director, and she had been working alongside Gianni for years. But this was a trial by fire situation because the brand nearly collapsed. But you know what? Donatella rebuilt it, most famously by putting Jennifer Lopez in the green jungle print dress at the 2000 Grammys, a moment so explosive that it literally inspired the creation of Google image search.
I remember.
Gianni's name was dropped from the logo. It became just Versace, but the Medusa remained.
And Cunanan's family. His mother, Mary Ann, lived on welfare and food stamps for the rest of her life. She died in 2012 in San Diego. His father, Modesto, he eventually returned to the United States after again joining a survivalist cult in the Philippines. He would maintain Andrew's innocence until he died in 2005. Two of Andrew's siblings wrote a book called Andrew Cunanan, An American Tragedy.
An American Tragedy. That's what they called it. And I think they were right, not because Andrew deserves sympathy for what he did, because he doesn't. I mean, he just doesn't. But because the machine that made him, the culture that told a hollow boy he could fill himself with other people's beauty and other people's money and other people's identities, that machine is still running and alive and well today. Is it better in some ways? Yeah, sure, it might be. But life has a way of extracting the worst out of our cultural moments. So, what do we take from this? Beyond the horror, beyond the headlines, what does this case actually teach us?
Well, you know where I'll start, and that's the 90s angle, because we open this whole series by saying this is a story about what the 1990s did to identity and beauty. And I do think the Versace Cunanan case is definitely a cautionary tale of that decade.
The 90s said, you are your image. You are your brand. You are what people see when they look at you. And two men took that message in completely opposite directions.
Let's look at what Versace built. Versace took that message and he created something legitimately beautiful. He used the power of image to celebrate people, to elevate beauty, to make the invisible people, including the gay men and women in the era of AIDS and don't ask, but don't tell. He made them visible and valued. Now, was this empire built on consumption and fantasy? Sure, but it was also built on genuine artistry. It was built on genuine craft and genuine love.
Cunanan took the exact same message and hollowed himself out with it. He became pure image, pure performance with nothing real underneath. And when the image cracked, when the audience walked out, there was nothing left to hold him together. He was the empty self, the simulacrum that discovered it had no original.
The ancient Greeks had a concept called kalos kaiagathos, and this is the belief that beauty and goodness are fundamentally intertwined, that the beautiful and the virtuous are the same thing. They value beauty a lot. Versace seemed to believe some version of this. His design celebrated the human body, his logo evoked ancient ideals, his life embodied the idea that beauty, when shared generously, can be a force for good.
But Cunanan's existence is the dark counter-argument. He was beautiful, he was brilliant, and he was monstrous. His beauty was the weapon he used to gain access to people, to exploit them, and ultimately to destroy them. He was the other face of Medusa, not the beautiful maiden, but the monster she became.
And maybe that's the lesson we need to take out of the Medusa myth, that beauty and destruction aren't actually opposites. There are two sides of the same face, and the only defense, the only way Perseus, half man, half god, could defeat her was again that mirror. That willingness to look honestly at reality rather than being seduced just by the surface.
Andrew Cunanan never looked in that mirror. He spent his whole life building a surface so perfect that nobody, including himself, ever looked beneath it. And 5 people died because of it.
And guess what? The culture that told him the surface was all that mattered, not still here. It just moved from magazines to Instagram. It was runways to TikTok. The temple has gotten bigger, and there are Medusas running everywhere.
That's our show, Mugshot family. Thank you for going deep with us on this one. I know it's been heavier than usual. 2 full episodes of psychology, philosophy, and some genuinely dark history. But this case kind of demanded it. Now, if you enjoyed this series, if you learned something, If you thought about something differently, if you caught yourself Googling Baudrillard, or how do you even spell that name, or Medusa mythology afterward, please share these episodes. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening. Hit subscribe. That's how we grow and keep doing episodes like this. And if you want to keep the conversation going, we'll be posting companion content on TikTok and Instagram at Mugshot Mysteries Podcast. The Medusa symbolism, the 90s cultural context, some of the psychology. We've got some things planned that I think you're really going to love.
Until next time.
Stay curious and stay kind. But as always, Gabriel, what did we learn today?
Well, we have learned that at my age, I am stuck in my ways, and that I will probably talk to you about the 90s like a coke-fueled Hollywood director. I'll bombard you with the 90s as hard as someone who just got a puppy. I'll descend upon you with the righteous fury of a mom with baby pictures. We have learned that narcissistic rage has no bounds, and when that is distilled, it turns into venom. And that venom can be shockingly fatal. It is something we need to watch out for before it manifests into our own lives. It makes me think of the William Blake poem, A Poison Tree, which may explain it best to me. Now, Kathryn, I promise, it's not a long poem, and it goes something like this. Now, I mean, it goes like this. I'm not making anything up. Okay. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I sunned it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night till it bore an apple bright. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree.
The 90s have come and gone, like a neon fever dream that was long gone. We had baggy jeans and fantastic hair. We put no fear on and thought we were fucking fair. Where did you shop? Did you get hot dog on a stick? What does it say about you? That you like to suck air. Did you smell like Team Spirit? Did you hit that Macarena so hard you feel it? Did you live life without a phone? Did you call your mom when you got to their home? What did you drive? Did you see an eclipse where you were cavalier? Did you see the prelude where you an intrepid motherfucker? Did you Geo Metro to the train? The 90s were a hell of a drug. Coke lined off blockbuster boxes for fun. Food court meals and Mike Tyson finally fell. The 90s were a hell of a drug. I wish you were there. Your hair would have been fabulous. The 90s were a hell of a drug. There. Super Nintendo or Genesis, Pearl Jam or Nirvana, Jazzercise or calisthenics. Making out like you meant it. Sold out but feeling it. I wish you were there. I wish you were there.